As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. I was born into freedom in a wonderful land of mountains and plains, rivers and lakes. Forever American is what I am. A past as rich as any can be. My father's worked hard to give this to me. I love this place I come from. To live another way I cannot foresee. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her roads wherever I can. From sea to shining sea, I've seen a lot, and none of it will be forgot. And when my country called, I gave my all as an American. As an American, I've been to the peaks of majestic mountains where the air is sweet. I've watched the eagle as it soars in beautiful skies that just can't be ignored. And by this country I'll always stand, for freedom and liberty for every man. When times are hard and things get rough, America always stands ready and rough. As an American, I eat apple pie, play baseball under its blue skies. As an American, I travel this land and follow her road.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to Real News Live. How you guys doing tonight? Another busy day. Hi, BK. Hi, Nana. Hi, Paulette. Hi, Vicky. Hi, Debbie Martin. Hi, Debbie Rogers. Hi, Tia. Hi, Richard. Hi, Beth. Hi, Linda. Hi, Kristen. How you guys all doing tonight? A lot going on out there in the world. But first, let's talk about this Trump trial, because it is a joke at this point watching what's going on. And I mean, I understand why they're trying to move the case to federal court. Not just because there's not going to be an unbiased jury. Let's face it. There's no way to find an unbiased jury in Georgia, especially in the area that's bringing the case. And it is ridiculous to even try a case in that area knowing this. Of course, the federal Judge Friday rejected the former White House Chief of Staff, Mark Meadows, his bid to move the Georgia criminal case to federal court, which is a setback for him and the shoveling sign for Trump at this point, because we know a fair trial is not going to come out in that county. It's not. I think we're at $70 or $80. Yeah, it's $80 now. That's the last time. But we're at $80 so far raised for Thanksgiving, so any donations to that I'd greatly appreciate it. But this whole case after case against Trump, I mean, is ridiculous. Watching this, I mean, it's beyond a low threshold. They're moving a case forward that should not even be allowed in the first place. I mean, supposedly grand jury even wanted to take more people and indict more people on more charges. Fulton County is a heavy liberal county. We already know this. It's not a question. And the sheriff is trying to hint at legal actions over Trump using his mugshot for fundraising at this point. Yeah, you have the Fulton County sheriff now, Pat Lombardi, on Friday discussing the arrest and prosecution of Donald Trump last month, and hinted at legal action over the former president's fundraising off his mugshot. It's not illegal for him to fundraise off of anything. People donate money because they want change. It's ridiculous. I know the campaign raised $1.7 million since the prosecutor processed at the Atlanta jail. And now the sheriff is saying, well, if there's any regard to the copyright, we're leaving it up to lawyers. First of all, you can't copyright somebody's image that is a public figure like Trump. His image is his and his alone. Let's be very, very clear about that. You cannot try to copyright an image that you were taken by the police department, a public entity, and saying that they're the only ones that can profit from it. That doesn't work that way. We know that unbiased jurors do not exist, especially in the age of social media and the location of this ridiculous cases. Even the jury pool in D.C. I mean, Jack Smith alone has already dirtied the jury pool. I mean, ridiculousness that we're trying to see what the actual results are, what he thought were false results. He thought they were false. He thought the election results were wrong. So he went about legal ways to overturn the results of the election in 2022. He went about, I know he asked Pence to do something that's questionable, but not unheard of. It's not unheard of because Democrats did it first. And let's be honest, the exposure and the news coverage of every one of these trials and the guilty before innocent, guilty of all charges that the left-wing media or left-stream media has pushed out, even right-wing media at this point, covering it like it's a fanfare every time he gets arrested, is causing more problems. It is truly a joke at this point to think that there's going to be a fair jury, an unbiased jury, in the age of everything that's happening. Many prospective jurors have been exposed to media reports in one way or another. They have to have been. Nobody exists on social media or they don't watch the news. Because that's what news coverage has been about for the last 5 years. That Donald Trump is a fraud. Or 8 years at this point. Nothing more than Donald Trump is this, Donald Trump is that, Donald Trump is this. And you cannot expect an unbiased jury at that point. And it's crazy, everything that's falling apart. And yet, we have no indictment or nothing going against the Bidens yet. And it's ridiculous. And watching this, I mean, we know that Trump is way ahead of any of the GOP rivals at this point, as they scramble to catch him in any state. I mean, the clock is ticking for any of Donald Trump's rivals to even catch up to the former president. The first state to vote in the GOP nomination process next year will be Iowa, and I guarantee he will win that state wholeheartedly. He's built up a significant and stable lead in the polls, both nationally and critically in early voting states. So to close the gap, I mean, they would have to do something enormous. Even though we see like prosecution and trying to remove Trump from the ballot in Colorado by ridiculous forefronts saying, that he was involved in an insurrection. First of all, he's never been charged with an insurrection. And watching this all unfold, it's ridiculous to even watch with the arguments that are being had on the left. One thing after another, trying to place Donald Trump on the hit list. Not just Donald Trump, but our Constitution, our freedom of speech. Now we're watching, of course, more freedoms being attacked. We're watching many states like, I forgot the name of the state now, but one of the states just pulled the governor of that state just changed the allowance of open carry weapons in their state without the judicial branch to where you're no longer allowed to carry weapons in Albuquerque, New Mexico. That's where it's New Mexico. No longer allowed to carry open carry. Not through the Senate or the state Senate, the state house. No, the governor just made a rule and applied it and made it law. That's the ridiculousness we're facing in this day and age. But watching this all unfold is just saddening. And I'm going to talk about the Maui fires because a lot of people are misconcerned or misimpressed of what's actually happened in Maui and how many remains of people remain missing at this point. Because there's been a lot of talk on both sides, about children missing. First of all, 66 people remain unaccounted for. 66 at this point. And they're not children. Yes, there have been some children that have died in the fires amongst the 115 that have been found dead. But we know that 66 remain unaccounted for as of right now, as they continue to remove toxic debris from the burn site. A process that could take years at this point and the reason those barricades went up, because people were asking, a lot of those buildings had asbestos in them and other materials that are highly toxic. Highly toxic materials that need to be controlled. The dust needs to be kept out of the population. And I've gotten a lot of questions, and I've asked a lot of people in-depth information that I know that live on the islands. My brother happens to live on the island, so I did get direct information that there is not a massive amount of children missing. That was a big misconception. What the governor was stating in Hawaii about the children, when the 2,200 children supposedly went missing, was 2,200 children could not go to school. And to understand that is their school burnt down. They were not at school during the fire, so they aren't able to attend educational. They're not able to attend school at this point, which they're working on relocating a lot of the residents to another island and working more to get this off. But the whole biggest scam that's going on is the properties are being lowball offered. There was already offers put on most of these properties to be bought out by big conglomerates. Now we got all these Facebook, Zuckerberg, Oprah, Dwan, all trying to scam people out of the properties to build a 15-minute city. I mean, this location was already scouted for that well beyond that, or well before this happened, and it is a land grab. How the fire started, still undetermined. I hate to say that, but it is undetermined at this point. We've seen evidence that obviously there was electrical arcing. The electric company tried to cover that up by removing power poles and damaged infrastructure before they got to even assess what caused the fire. We know that other things, of course, have came out about the fires, about fires randomly popping up in new areas. But still, nobody there on the island knows where the fires exactly started. Even the populations that live there, the citizens. And I've had people asking questions, direct questions to citizens for the past couple of weeks. And it was devastating what happened with the police, because the police kept people in the fire zone thinking that they were saving them from running over the downed electrical lines that were on the main highway out. Of course, the people that did survive And the people that didn't perish in this fire are the people that disobeyed orders and drove their vehicles around the power lines and away around the police. It's the people that evacuated like they would during a tsunami, that walked up the mountain. Those are the people that survived. So this devastation and everything that's happened, that Hawaii mismanaged this whole thing. Their emergency management is piss poor. And I think that the reserve for fire water should always be filled. Let's be honest. If you have a reservoir for fires, it should always be filled. If it's always full, then you're not diverting water to fill it. It's always staying full. You're only using it for fire emergencies. So why not divert the water constantly? You keep the reservoir full. If there's a fire, you use it, and it fills right back up. I know that's a hard concept to understand, but God damn it, these are lives that were lost over ridiculous political issues. Whether we want to admit it or not, politically, these lives were lost because ridiculous politicians at this point. And it is sad. It is sad to know that remains are still being found. Some remains won't even be found. The grass fires and winds at over 50 miles an hour at the time caused fires of over 3,000 degrees, excess of 3,000 degrees at this point, that they know of. And that's enough to cremate a body. And that is just sad. So the 66 people that are still missing, some of them may never be found. Now the EPA, of course, is there, and the Army Corps of Engineers leading the removal of toxic debris. The cleanup will take better part of a year and cost more than $1 billion. Of course, the federal emergency agencies are not going to provide any more money, but there were 6,000 survivors of the fire that need shelter, 6,000 total people that are out of homes, that their homes have been destroyed, will be getting help from federal emergency agencies now that will help them with state-provided housing grants, rental assistance, and displacement for people for the next 18 months. Now, this is something new because we know the $720 was all they're getting from FEMA. So now they are going to get state-provided housing and rental assistance for displacement for the next 18 months, which is going to help these people tremendously recover. They may have lost their properties, they may have lost everything else, but at least they'll have somewhere to sleep at night, somewhere to place their head and know they are safe. Now, everybody involved in this fire fiasco, the police department, the regulators of the water board, the freaking power company, all of them should be charged federally with felony murder. We know at least 115 people died as a result. So, of course, a criminal enterprise is any enterprise that causes harm to another person or persons through either neglect of following regulations or just flat out not caring about it. FEMA is a joke. They need to be prosecuted. Without prosecution, there will be no standing for the next time something like this happens. And it's going to happen again. It's going to get worse every time we look at it. I mean, we have Hurricane Lee right now, which is sitting out in the Atlantic Oceans right now. And it's going to get more powerful. Already a Category 5 storm. Going to get more powerful as two storms are following up behind it, are going to feed that system. It is going to be the perfect storm, like the movie, but a lot worse. I say we're looking at Thursday or Friday, a storm sitting off the coast of the United States, not just one state. I'm talking Florida to New York. That big of a storm sitting off the coast of the United States. That's what I'm predicting with Lee. I don't care what meteorologists are saying at this point. I think it's going to be a ridiculous sized storm that is going to cause massive damage to infrastructure within the United States, even if we don't sustain a direct hit, even if it's just a glancing blow. Yeah, there's 3 fronts merging at this point. It's going to be tremendous. You have two follow storms behind Lee that are going to run into it, plus the front that's up in the northeast right now. Lee's going to be a huge damaging storm. I can see damage in New York City where power is totally shut down. No subway systems, no any of that, because it'll all be flooded. I can see that happening with this storm. It'll be worse than a Sandy situation. And Sandy was bad. Lives weren't lost, but a lot of people were inconvenienced. It's going to hit hard, and it's going to hit the entire coast. We're going to see massive flooding. People need to be prepared. This is going to be one of those storms where people are saying, oh, it's not going to be that bad. Oh, it's not going to be that bad. It's going to be terrible. It is going to be terrible for everyone involved. And saying it's a category 5 and it's not that bad. It's not going to hit directly. It's not going to make landfall. It's going to be worse than anything we've seen before. That's HARP all the way. And it's ridiculous. I think they tried to slow this storm. Slowing Lee down would be tremendous if there wasn't two storms behind it and a front that's forming. But slowing Lee down actually made it worse because of the high water temperatures off the East Coast. And of course, two storms following up behind it that are going to feed right into it. I mean, a category 5 storm is going to cause catastrophe and damage and destroy a high percentage of framed homes. We already know that. And down power lines, trees. Those will be common occurrences during the storm, even with no direct hit. Long-lasting electrical outage making areas uninhabitable for months at this point is what I'm seeing. Yes, DARPA controls HARP. HARP's up in Alaska. You're right. We're watching this fluctuation. Of course, it's going to happen. And I expect Lee to not remain powerful, but intensify in power and strength and size. I don't care what the Weather Channel is trying to tell people right now. The truth is it's happening. And New York better be prepared because New York, of course, Democrat, idiotic mayor, says migrants are not going to destroy the city. Well, at this point, we have migrants not just filling up every hotel, but we have migrants in New York City flooding into the streets and everything else, and we got a major storm coming. These illegal immigrants that have entered this country, bringing with them drugs, crime, at an all-time high in New York, even anywhere these migrants are being sent, crime has been an uptake. Meanwhile, they're getting $2,200 a month, housing, food, and medical, all covered. But this is going to be a problem. The people that are on the streets there that do not have housing, the homelessness in New York City, the people that live in the subway system, when they can't go into the subway, they can't get out of the weather. We're going to see massive problems with health and human services, along with power outages in New York, and it's going to be devastating. It is going to be devastating what we see happening. And people need to be prepared because it's not going to be easy to watch. And it's not just going to be in New York. We're going to see it in D.C. We're going to see it in the Carolinas, Georgia, some parts of Florida, maybe even. We don't know how much. It's going to be bad. The projected path of the storm, I don't think it's going to change much, but the size and the scope of the storm is going to make the impact. And it's going to make the impact bad. Watching all this unfold, as we're watching Ukraine, of course, the International Atomic Energy Association has warned of nuclear safety threats as the combat near this power plant has been high in Ukraine since pretty much the beginning of this war. Now, the combat directly with Ukraine firing shells directly towards this area as they continue pressing their counteroffense today. Watching shells land very, very close, hearing numerous explosions in this area. Increased military activity in the region, there's no question about that. There was no damage to the plant yet that we know, but it's deeply concerning. The possible dangers facing the plant at this time and the high military tensions in the region. If this plant goes off, it is going to be bad for everyone in not just Europe, but in the global aspect. The global aspect of what's happening, what's unfolding, is ridiculous. I can't even see this Herbert guy, so if you guys can see him, you might want to block them, because I already have him blocked and I can't do anything about it. I can't see it. But watching all this unfold, and of course, we're sending massive amounts of military vehicles and everything else to Ukraine on the battlefield. Guess what? Ukraine's Western-made vehicles are getting killed on the battlefield. It's not as much of a win for Russia's forces as it was, but watching billions of dollars worth of equipment that we keep sending to Ukraine getting destroyed in this counteroffense that they're not making any ground in is devastating. It's not devastating the loss of vehicles, it's devastating knowing our technology is being outmatched in a modern war, a modern battlefield. Watching this unfold is catastrophic because the equipment was created for the same priorities that Ukraine is using it for now. Yes, more Ukrainians are surviving inside of these vehicles than other vehicles Ukraine is using because they're made to survive harder hits, but the vehicles are still being destroyed at alarming rates. Ukraine has lost new Western armored vehicles in battle. These vehicles are being killed. It's not necessarily a win, but they're losing against Soviet-era systems. Not even modern systems that Russia's using. Russia's using systems that were made back in the 50s and 60s. Watching this to happen, it's just ridiculous. This all unfolding as we hear another $1 billion going to Ukraine for more, of course, Bradley fighting vehicles and other combat-capable vehicles that we see being destroyed because they're not vastly superior. Ukrainian troops thought they were vastly superior. We thought they were vastly superior to Soviet-era equipment, but it's not. They're better at keeping people alive on the inside, but that's about it. They're not better at getting hit and destroyed. We underestimated Russia at this point. Obviously, we underestimated Russia because they're still fighting in Syria, full force in Syria. Russia's still fighting on a modern battlefield in Syria, along with their field in Ukraine, and they still have soldiers just lollygagging around within Russia itself. The mechanisms that we're seeing in this battle are infuriating. It's watching a modern World War II, basically, unfolding. It's going to be World War III here soon. And the mindset that we're supposedly so superior to Russia, we're superior to China. We know China has more technology in the sea and air than we can even imagine at this point. Russia has none of that compared to China. Not even the military force China has to offer. And we can't manage to fund enough weapons to destroy Russia inside of Ukraine. We can't manage to destroy Russia inside of Syria. Yeah, and we're gonna send Poland nukes. We're gonna send nukes to Poland when Belarus already said if a single thing happens inside of Belarus soil from NATO or Poland troops, they will hit the red button. And they've already gotten the okay from Putin himself. Russia's manpower and ability to move, Ukraine can't afford to lose skilled vehicle crews or infantry units or vehicles. But Western vehicles have proven ineffective at keeping Ukrainian troops in the fight. Massive injuries, over 2 million injured, over 600,000 dead in Ukraine alone. Crazy. If NATO tries to blockade the Black Sea, Turkey will pull out of NATO and it will be World War III immediately. Like World War II, Germany, Italy, and Japan. I'm sorry, my language, I stopped myself. And Japan all worked together against the United States. 3 countries that had no business with each other. We know that Russia, if it was Russia even, or China with Japan, forget it. World War II would have been way different from the beginning. But it wasn't. Watching what's unfolding now is we have BRICS, which is an alignment of nations far greater than we've seen anything before. And we're trying to pick a fight with every single one of them at this point. Be prepared, because something is going to happen with this. And we got our own problems. We truly have our own problems unfolding here in the United States. We're too busy trying to prosecute political rivals than to actually open our eyes and see what's happening. Major devastating storms hitting the United States. Fires, burning people, burning cities. And then who do we have? We have these rich billionaires that will run up and try to buy these properties out so they can build a 15-minute city. Who cares about your 15-minute city? It's not going to save the world from global warming. Those predictions, we know, we've been getting those since what, the 20s? Oh wait, in the 20s there was going to be an ice age. And then in the 50s it was ice age. We have an ice age coming. The world's going to go into an ice age. It's ridiculous. Watching this unfold is utterly ridiculous, and America needs to stand up. As American citizens, we need to stand up and take our rights back. Our constitutional rights that we should be allowed to use, the rights to bear arms, the rights of freedom of speech, without oppression of our government, without recourse to address our government openly and publicly, without that recourse of the government attacking us. We've already seen when people try to openly speak about the government, they get attacked, they get imprisoned. How much better are we than any dictatorship in the world right now? Ask yourself that question. Would you want your children in prison because they say they do not want to wear a mask? Because that's where we're headed. Mark my words. God bless you guys. Good night, and I will see you guys Monday night at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time. Till then, be safe, be secure, and God bless America. The America we know we need, and the America we need now. Good night.